itself, I just want to make it, sure that everyone's on the same page in terms of the different environments in Daylite. So there's two different types of environments, and to highlight this, I'm just going to open up. We have a migration guide that was for um, uh, previous users of Daylite that are now on the latest version. But in any case, just to expand on the environment for you, I'm just going to go down to page number 7. So the first environment is what we call a personal environment. And this is if you're a single user that's just going to be accessing your Daylite database with one computer. So in that case, you would just download Daylite from our website. So you'd go to, you can go to the Try Daylite page. So when you go to products, you click on Daylite. Then you'd be able to click on download. And then at the very bottom of this page, step number 2, you can visit this page. And this is where you're able to download both Daylite Server Admin and Daylite. But in the case of a personal environment, you would just download Daylite right here. And that would give you the Daylite file that you're going to use to create your personal database and the program that you're going to use to, of course, log into it. Now, in terms of a shared environment, so this is for somebody that might have multiple users. Maybe you're just a single user with multiple Macs, or maybe you just have one Mac and an iPhone and you want to use Daylite Touch or companion application to Daylite as well. This would also fall into a shared environment. So this means that you're sharing your database with multiple machines or devices. Now, I'm going to take a second to kind of go through the shared environment, mainly because the personal environment is very straightforward, and I will pause to tell you how that would go about, and I'll make sure I show that when I'm logging into the shared database for you. But in terms of so in terms of that shared database, the first thing you would go through is Daylite Server Admin. And this is what's going to manage that shared database. So it's going to manage all the connections to it. It's going to manage your licenses. And it's where you'll be able to set up your backups. So this is an automatic backup procedure that you can set up. That way you can ensure that you're constantly backing up your database just in case if you have any hardware failure, if you maybe do something that you don't want to do, you have something that you can kind of go back to. Now, I'm going to show you how you'd be able to create a new database. There is a welcome window or a first run window that will pop open when you first download Daylite Server. But in the event that you maybe missed it, it's really just as simple as clicking on this plus sign within the database tab. And this is going to allow you to create a new database. Now, this database process is really the exact same for personal databases. The only difference is you wouldn't be able to create additional users in a personal environment, whereas in a shared database you can. So the first pane is really just setting up your login and your personal information. And once you've entered that, you can set up your organization information. In the shared environment, this is where you're also able to set up additional users. And this is where you're able to set the database name and the template that you're going to use. Now, if anyone isn't familiar with the industry templates, these are really predefined databases with categories, keywords, pipelines. These are all things that's customizable within the preferences. Now, if you haven't seen this page yet, you can just go to our website, and under Daylite, just below the main screenshot, you're going to see a little banner that has industries. Now within industries, this is what's going to expand on the different templates. You'll be able to download a PDF. In some cases, we've included a video on projects and opportunities that can kind of show you some more stuff visually. But these guides and documents are really great to kind of get an idea of the workflow and how this information kind of applies to those industries. So if there's one that kind of resonates with you or hits close to home, it's a great way of kind of getting an understanding of the terminology and the concepts behind Daylite, and that way it kind of applies to something that's relatable. Now in this case, I'm just going to cancel out of this, but just to share with you, when you are ready to create your own database, I really do recommend starting from a blank database. And this is because you can then set up all the categories, the keywords, the pipelines, all to your settings. So that way it really applies to you. Now I'm going to cancel out of here because I've already gone through and set up the sample general database. But just the keys to ensure that you'll be able to connect, you'll want to make sure that in the general tab that the Daylite server, of course, is on, and of course that you have a database that you'll be able to connect to, and of course a user account. So I'm going to close out of here, and I'm going to open up Daylite. So this is going to be a great time to show you where that personal environment would come into play. So when I first launched Daylite, it's going to give me the welcome window. And this is where I can choose to either log in to an existing database, I can open up one of those sample databases, or I could create a new personal database. So for those personal users that are only going to be accessing Daylite from their Mac, when you launch Daylite, you can just click on create a new database, and it's going to take you through the exact same process I just showed for creating a shared database. So we're going to close out of that because we already have a database. But this is a great time to show you the login window. So right now it shows you that it's going to log into the sample database. Well, I want to connect to a different database. So I'm going to click on this little up and down arrow, and it's going to pull up a little list. Now, this list is going to be much longer than yours might be. This is actually showing me all the different databases within my network. So quite a few of my colleagues have Daylite Server Admin running. But what I want to do is I want to find that sample general database on my machine. Now, I've logged in before as Mary, so it does remember that, but you might just see something like this with the database name and the computer name. So you can select that, and then of course you can enter your username and password. So I'm going to log in, and I'm logging in as Mary Jennings, just for your information. So when you first launch Daylite, you might see something more along the lines of this within the calendar. I'm going to touch base on the calendar in a moment. But before I get into the view of Daylite, I just want to make sure everyone's okay and familiar with the different environments and understand the difference between the two. If you could just take a quick moment just to chat in that chat box, just saying okay, or if anyone has a quick question, I don't mind taking a quick moment just to kind of highlight it now. I do have a question and answer period at the end, so it's more than fine to ask those questions then. It's just a good idea that if there is a couple people, I can quickly just clarify those questions. All right. So far, it looks so good. So like I mentioned, if there was any questions, by all means, just let me know after, and I'd be more than happy to clarify for you. So let's quickly talk about the view, because this is something that's obviously going to be a fairly important aspect of Daylite to you. So the main view in Daylite is really what we call the three-pane view. And what this shows you is a list. Now, right now I'm in contacts, so this information is going to apply to contacts. So in this case, I have a list of contacts. Now, when I select a contact, I can see what's linked to the contact. And if I select the linked item, it's going to show me the business card of that linked item. So let me select Amin here, and I can select Sunshine Media. So this is the organization that Amin works for. And now I can see the business card of that organization. So the phone number, the address, the email, maybe the URL, and so forth. Now, below what we call the three-pane view, this is the results pane. And this is showing you information that relates to your list. So in this case, this is showing me information based on my contact. Now, in this case, I have Amin selected, so I can see the business card of Amin. Once again, his phone number, his addresses, his roles that he has. When I go into the activity, this is showing me a complete history of the contact. So this would show me any phone calls that I've had with them, any emails, any appointments, notes, projects, everything in chronological order. And last but not least is forms. And this is going to show you any forms that you have attached to this contact. Now, a form is completely customizable within Daylite. Once you set it up, you can add it to a contact. And this allows you just to fill out additional information that you want to maybe track, maybe other solutions that they've looked at. Maybe the potential of their environment is going to be a multiple user thing. Is it just a single person that's going to be doing this? Maybe budgets, target dates, just different information you want to track. And this is all customizable within the preferences. And just for anyone that's interested, it's under forms and fields. Now, this view, what it's really showing you is it's going to change it keeps the format the same. So as an example, let me expand on that for you. When I switch to organizations, so Daylite also keeps a list of organizations. So you'd be able to go through those. But what it's now showing you is the organization and who's linked to it. So as an example, when we were viewing Amin, we saw that he was linked to Sunshine Media. So in this link pane, we can actually see Amin once again. But now we'll see also his other colleagues. So there's Aaron, there's Adam, there's Ali, there's April, there's Mary, Matthew, but more importantly, you can also see the role that they have. So in this case, you'll notice that Aaron is actually linked twice, but he's an assistant and a writer. So why is this important? Well, as an example, if I was contacting Sunshine Media and I wanted to contact the sales team, I'm not going to want to contact the writer. I'm not going to want to contact the graphic artist. I'm not going to want to contact the marketer. I really want to talk to sales. So instantly by looking at that organization, I can see, oh, you know what? Amin's the guy in sales, and that's who I'm going to contact. And now I have his details to contact. So what Daylite's showing you is in this view, it once again is a list of the objects you're looking at, what's linked to that item, and then of course the details pertaining to that linked item. Now, before I jump on, because a lot of this stuff is going to apply to the other objects in Daylite, I just want to confirm and make sure if anyone has any question about what Daylite's showing in that three-pane view, I really wouldn't mind taking a quick second to tackle it now. So once again, if you could just use that chat box for me just to confirm that everyone's still on the same page, I'd like to know that I can move on. So just to, so Joshua, I saw your question about the mailer. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the presentation. And Alan, in terms of your question about the activity across um, the, you said all in the organization, so I'm just assuming you meant the contacts. So when you link an item to a contact, there's actually a preference within the Daylite organization settings that you can automatically link notes, tasks, appointments, or events to the contact's default organization. So this way you can automatically link stuff. So as an example, if I'm viewing Sunshine Media and I view, say, Amin in this case, when this checkbox is checked that this is the default role, then those settings apply. So when you're setting up your contacts and if you have a contact for an organization and that's their default role, set that up because that way you can take advantage of some of those preferences. Now, it sounds like everyone's on the same page in terms of the view. So let's talk about, let's go a little bit further into contacts and how you can manage your contact list. So I talked about being able to see the organization that Amin works for. Now let's show you how that works. So as an example, I got Ali here, and say Ali's. Well, let's find something else. I know Adrian's not perfect. So let's say Adrian Lee also happens to work for Sunshine Media. Well, the easiest way of establishing this is by linking the two together. So we have a few options. In this case, I could select Adam Baker or Barker because I know he's linked to it, and simply drag and drop Adrian Lee to Sunshine Media. This would be one way of establishing the link. Now, I'm not going to create the link right now because I'm going to do it another way, but this would be one way. So it's just a simple drag and drop. But the more common way that you'll probably end up linking information is with the use of your find window. So the find window can be brought up by clicking on find in the toolbar. It also has shortcuts, which makes it a little bit quicker. And even quicker than that, you can set up a hotkey, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. But by pulling up your quick find window, if we're viewing Adrian, I can now search for Sunshine Media. So of course helps if I search for organizations as well. I can pull up Sunshine Media now, and now I can link this to Adrian Lee. So this time, once again, I'm going to actually drop this, the organization on Adrian. And what this is doing is this is going to create a link. So you'll now notice that Daylite's popped open a new window, and now I can set the role. So in this case, I'm going to select the project manager. Now, once again, all these roles are customizable within the preferences, so if these don't apply to you, not to worry. You can make sure that they're tailored towards you. And just to recap on those industry templates, this is really where that information is coming from. So if you were starting with a blank database, you'd be able to customize all this stuff towards your needs. So I'm going to set this up as the default role. That way we can automatically link that stuff, and I'm going to click OK. So now you're going to notice when I'm looking at Adrian's contact record that in addition to the groups and the contact that he was linked to, I now have Sunshine Media. So just to expand on the concept of linking, Daylite's going to keep all your contacts, all your organizations, all your projects, all your tasks, your appointments, your opportunities, your notes. It's going to keep everything in the same database. But to show they're related, all is based on that link. So just taking it one step back to more of a simpler form of linking. If I was to double click on Adrian Lee's contact record, this is the link pane, and within that you'll see a little plus sign. So this is the other way of course, of establishing a link, is then searching for Sunshine Media and pulling